Welcome to our special playoff edition of Canucks Hockey Blog TV. We're going to tell you a little bit about the Canucks and how they're transitioning into the postseason, jumping straight into who we think is going to start in Game 1. Is it Roberto Luongo or Cory Schneider? My money's on Joe Canada. We're going to tell you a little bit about what we think of the other teams in the West, how many games it might take for these teams to make it into the second round. We're telling you which is our favorite team in the East. I was pulling for the Jets, all you Winnipeggers. Lastly, we'll tell you how the Canucks are going to fare against the San Jose Sharks and whether or not we think they'll win, which I do. Remember, our blog is the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. Welcome to Canucks Hockey Blog TV, otherwise known as CHBTV, and we're here for a very special episode 7, back a little bit quicker than usual with our special playoff edition, just to talk a little bit about matchups. As always, Chris Golden is here, joined by Clay Emo, JJ Guerrero. We've got Ed Lau, and our special guest today is Shanel Pratap. So Shanel, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, so our viewers can know more.
Well, I've been with Global Sports for the last 3 years. I've been in the sports industry for about 7 years, broadcasting for 9, cover Canucks on a day-to-day basis. So I think I fit in pretty well with this group of misfits.
Cool. Well, I mean, you know, as bloggers, we're experts.
Of course.
Good. So why don't we dive into our first topic? We're going to talk a little bit about playoffs and implications for the Canucks. So we obviously heard about the game last night, or what was appearing to be a game. Any worries about how this bodes for the Canucks heading into the playoff season?
Well, I don't know what to expect, to be perfectly honest with you. I mean, this has been such an uneven season, you guys. I mean, you know, at times this team looks like a true contender. I mean, we saw the Chicago game from earlier in the week. Mm-hmm. At times, like the Anaheim game and the game last night. I mean, well, you know, granted they iced a ragtag lineup last night, but you just don't know what you're going to get with this group.
Ragtag?
You know, you could.
It wasn't much of a lineup.
I guess it wasn't much. I mean, Derek Johnson had like 20 minutes of ice time. Cam Barker had 20 minutes of ice time. I mean, you know, that's not the lineup. They're obviously they're not going to ice it during when the playoffs start in a couple of days here, but. Or maybe tomorrow, when this airs. But you know, the point is, it's just been so uneven. I just don't know what to expect out of these guys.
I think a lot of people are making those assumptions based on last night's game or the last 2 nights' games. But the thing is, they're meaningless games. Last 2 years, I mean, after coming one game away from winning the Cup, this team has to always be playing for something. There has to be a motivation on the line for them to show up. I mean, unfortunately, that's the truth because there's nothing on the line the last 2 nights. And I don't think there's a problem with what we saw the last 2 nights. Now that there's something on the line, I think we're going to see a better team show up. Now, regardless of who's starting in net, what our first, second line is going to look like, I think you're going to see a different team than we saw the last 2 nights. And I mean, those are throwaway games. Yeah. And in a season of 48 games, you throw away 2 games that mean absolutely nothing is not a big deal because the real season begins in 3 days.
You guys get the feeling though, like you know, it's almost like shades of last year because the Canucks went through this last year too. Going into the playoffs, they weren't playing that well. I know the President's Trophy was on the line last year, but you know, same thing. I mean, they went through that stretch just going to the playoffs where they weren't playing their best, and maybe it was a motivation thing or whatever. But we saw what happened. They went to the Kings series. They weren't prepared. So
well, and that's the thing. It's not that the uneven play worried me last year. It's the fact that no one, including what seems to be the Kings organization, gave them any chance of beating the Canucks. And how much is that Daniel Sedin not dressing for the first few games, or how much of an impact that was with how the team was structured? I mean, look at the lineup they were dressing, or the line combinations. It was, Danny's going to be there for game 1. Holy crap.
Yeah.
Andrew Evatt, you're on the first line, because that's how good you are. That's our only option.
Yeah.
I guess that's why I'm a skeptic now. Is there's nothing that has me thinking that we're going to see something different this year that could have happened last year.
But here's the thing: the last 2 years, what did we expect? We expected them to win the Stanley Cup.
Sure.
2 President's Trophy, banners, and everybody expects, oh well, they have to win the Cup. Here, the expectations are much lower, and I think this is the best thing for this team is going into a playoffs where everybody's like scratching their heads, going, "What are we going to see?" Because if they go 4 and done, or if they're out in the first round, people are going to be like, well, we expected this. But if you get past San Jose and you keep going, it's like, well, we expected this too, because it's that flipping on the light switch. And as hard as it is to say it, I think they can do that because they know what it's like going into the playoffs now. And I think without the expectations as high, I think you're going to see a much more relaxed team. You're going to see a team that's going to go out and just be like, let's see what happens. And
sure. Speaking of San Jose, I'm a glass half full kind of guy. You look at the last game of the year, and we had a chance to play either San Jose, St. Louis, or LA. And we've talked in previous episodes, the two worst matchups perhaps because of their size and their steamrolling forwards are St. Louis and LA. So not to get past San Jose, but it's probably the best matchup that we could have asked for. We beat them 2 years ago. They're not as bruising. They've lost a couple of key pieces. They got Niemi, a decent goalie, but of those three teams, maybe it's our best chance to get to the next round.
Yeah, I really wanted to play Mini in Minnesota because I thought that would be the easiest road. Not to take anything away from Philly, but
all right, Todd Bertuzzi. Tell the Mini fans off.
Not to take anything away. It is what it is. It is what it is. So, I thought that Mini would have been the best matchup for us, not only because of size and skill, but their goaltending is a little bit shaky at the moment. Not as strong as those other teams that we mentioned.
You could have picked anybody, but the thing is, we're playing San Jose. I think this is the best matchup for the Canucks.
I like the Sharks
because I think it'll be exciting, and I think when you look at our team, our three best players, our most important players, you got the Twins and Kessler. They've shown they can show up for the playoffs. You look at their three best players; they haven't shown they can show up for the playoffs. Not Marlowe, Thornton, and Niemi. I mean, he's won a cup, but I think this matchup is probably the best for the Canucks, where it will be exciting hockey, and I think you're going to see probably the best chance of the Canucks advancing. I mean, if they played LA or St. Louis, if they had won, they would have been just bad. They're not as big. They would, a physical matchup. San Jose's an older team. It's ironic because both teams are almost exactly the same team because their core lineup is on the decline now, right? So the legacies are kind of moving on. I mean, you look at Vancouver's main guys, and you look at San Jose's main guys. I mean, one of these teams is going to blow up in the offseason.
Yeah.
And
whoever loses,
and it's true, right? And San Jose finished first 4 years ago in the conference, second the next year, then they finished 7th last year and 6th this year. So it's like they're steadily on the decline. Right?
So just on the blowing up part, I mean, isn't it safe to say that right now, if the Canucks, let's say, get out of the first round, there'll be those that'll be saying, "Oh, it's just a rough year, shortened season. The late season injuries didn't bode well." To me, they need to get knocked out in the first round for this team to be blown up.
Oh, I totally agree.
Yeah,
totally agree. And you'll see that, whether it's the GM, whether it's a coach, or whether it's a big piece of the puzzle.
When I look at the matchup between Vancouver and San Jose, you got two uneven teams. San Jose's unevenness is simply stellar at home, crap on the road, whereas Vancouver is at least consistently uneven. It doesn't really matter where they're playing. You don't know which team you're going to get. I mean, we saw that, sure, throwaway games, but the team showed up to play Chicago, and it sort of got me thinking a few seasons back where the Canucks had a similar experience with Chicago, took it to them, and then we ended up losing. I think that was the first time we matched up against Chicago and lost in 6.
That's right.
And part of me is worried if it wasn't like last season where we had that emotional game against Boston, and then that was like the Stanley Cup was over. That is my biggest worry.
It's a good matchup because after the first two lines, it's basically even par, right? I mean, San Jose, I think they were building for the future. That's why they got rid of Clough and Douglas Murray.
I don't even know if San Jose was expecting to make it to the playoffs.
Well, exactly. Exactly. For them, this is like, hey, we made it to the playoffs, and it's gravy. But those two were you look at 2 years ago when they played in the playoffs, Clough was a big dominant force. So was Murray. Now you got a kid from Victoria that's playing big minutes there. I was looking at their roster last night. They got 3 defensemen born in the 70s. And I think we're all born in the 70s, but it just shows they're a lot older, and they're going to be slower. They're going to be all that stuff. So it's the Canucks were built for speed. I mean, it bodes well for them. That second line is going to be huge. The Higgins, second and third. Like all the speedsters on this team are going to be a big part of.
Yeah.
Well, just before the handy dart comes to pick me up, thank you. No, I think I look at the matchups. Goaltending, the Niemi can be good. I think the forwards, as you said, Shanel, they match up pretty. I think we have the advantage on defense. I look at San Jose's defense. I see Dan Boyle, right? Where does Brent Burns play now? Is he up for it? Is he,
he's like the San Jose's version of Keith Ballard.
Okay. They have Vlasic, and they got like you said, a couple other guys who I don't see. When we're healthy, I think that's where we can dominate. Obviously, it's not D playing against D, it's our forwards playing against their D. But I just think we're a lot deeper on defense if we're healthy, and I think that could be the big difference for me, at least.
It's gonna come down to goaltending. You look at Niemi; he's by far their MVP this season, just like Schneider was for us. But I was looking at his stats. He's in the top. Like before the final game of the season, he let in 3 goals. He was in the top 6 in save percentage. He has 4 shutouts. He's 24 wins, most in the NHL. It's going to come down to if the Canucks can get to him, they're going to advance. If they don't, he can steal them a couple of games at Rogers Arena, and then it's just a crapshoot, right? You just don't know.
Yeah.
And a big question with Vancouver is who's going to start in net.
That's $1 million question today, right?
Exactly. And the thing is, I think either way, I think Vancouver still has the edge in net, even if Luongo starts, because I think he's still a number 1 caliber goalie. He didn't show it in the final game of the season, but when you're playing in front of a Mickey Mouse team, it doesn't matter in a meaningless game. But I think he still has a mindset of showing up, because now it's like if he does start game 1 and wins game 1, 2, and 3, and Schneider's healthy, what do you do? Right?
Yeah.
You got it right. Yeah. Exactly. Right?
Well, that was a question I think that was asked on the panel on CBC. Is he starts game 1, gets a shutout, and Schneider's back for game 2. Oh, you run with
you got to go with Luongo. I agree. Yeah. I think everybody's theory is we're going with Luongo, and he's shown he can get up for playoff games. Mm-hmm. So I have confidence that he can be the number 1 guy. Everybody's raining on his parade because of his final game performance, but you know what? We've already talked about that. It's a new season, and he's shown he can show up for the playoffs. So just go with that.
Well, and discount as well. That last game, I think the Chicago Wolves would have probably been better off in front of Luongo.
Exactly. It's just a throwaway. Let's not even talk about that.
Do we really think we see Luongo though?
Yeah, I think so. You know what? But by the sounds of it, there's no indication from anybody in the Canuck organization, because if Schneider had just a minor injury, they would have said no, he's ready for game 1. They would have made it official and been like, no, he's ready, he's good to go. You'll see him on Tuesday or Wednesday. I think there is some truth to at least somewhat of an injury, but to the extent of it, we don't know.
Wouldn't that be something though?
Yeah.
A couple of years we've got this Luongo Schneider thing going, and we're still talking about it.
We end up with Luongo.
Hey, can you imagine if we had Ben Scrivens now?
No, exactly.
Would Ben Scrivens start?
Yep.
Doesn't matter, San Jose. All they're going to do is they're going to put it behind the net and hope that Luongo or Schneider has to try and play it. Right? Unfortunately, that's the scary part for me. But
let's look at the Canucks' second line, which apparently is going to be either Kessler or Roy on the wing, with the opposite guy in the middle, Higgins on the other side.
Are we keeping Ebbett in the
and that's sort of how is that good for the team? Like, I get that Roy and Higgins have chemistry, but why is it that we have to take 2 centers? The center, hey, now we've got depth in the position. Don't like it. I'm going to put them on the wing. Like, where's that thought?
You know what? I don't mind. Especially in the playoffs, I think one of the puck possession is huge. You got 2 centermen on the ice. If you're in a defensive zone where you have to win a faceoff, somebody. You're kind of stretching it here, but there's times where it's a 3-2 game and you have to win a faceoff and somebody gets waved out. You got the option of having another guy, but I think on the flip side, in the sense of a full game, I think having the flexibility of I think Kessler does play well on the wing. It opens up the game for him. He showed he can score 40 goals. He did a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. And you take away the defensive responsibilities for him, he can be more of a flamboyant, I guess, flashier offensive guy on the wing, and that gives you that flexibility, the versatility of having that. But yeah, it's one of those things. Like, well, why don't you move one to the third line and you got 3 solid lines? But we all know in the playoffs, it's 2.5 lines that win you games and wins the series.
Yes, exactly. Well, you got to have some depth, and and I think that lineup works where you've got Kessler and Roy playing on the same line. You completely stack up the top 2 lines.
Yeah.
force the other team to play their top two lines and top two deep defensive pairs against, the Sedins and Roy Kessler and all of them. But that all depends on who picks stock up on the third line. Because, I mean, if it's Andrew Ebbett, I don't know if I'm sold that that's a solid third line.
Yeah.
But maybe Max Lapierre, who, in 2011, he showed he could play. I mean, he was between Raymond and Hansen during 2011.
And that's what
he did all right.
And that's the thing is I don't mind that line. Lapierre, Hansen, and Raymond. I mean, we've seen glimpses where they just buzz around.
Yeah.
You got Hansen and Lapierre that'll hit anything, and they don't mind that. Raymond is really a smaller version of Kessler. They both like holding onto the puck. They don't like dishing it all that much, and I mean Hansen and Lappy can crash behind the crease.
That line's going to be huge in this series just because of the depth of San Jose's defense. I mean, they're not very deep.
Yeah.
They're old.
Yeah, exactly.
San Jose's second, third line they're okay, but they're I think Vancouver's third line is much better than them, and the speed factor is going to kill them, right? I mean,
San Jose is not a very fast team.
no, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you compare them to the Kings or even the Blues. I mean, San Jose is
I think the Canucks' most successful game this year is when they had an aggressive forecheck.
Yeah.
Like, you keep the other team on their heels, and it allows them to play their game. I think where you start to disagree with me if I'm wrong, but as soon as the Canucks take the foot off the gas, where they start to almost not coast, but play to their opposition, that's when they don't do so well.
Yeah.
That's when we see those 2-goal leads becoming the worst lead in hockey. It's because the Canucks get those two off an aggressive game, and all of a sudden,
No, I agree. I mean, thing is, it's like it's one of those series. I mean, you can sit and dissect everything about these series, but nobody knows what to expect, right? I mean, we can see a total defensive game where it's 1-0 and the goalie steals the show, or we can see a 5-4 game. I mean, the Canucks lost every game to San Jose this year. One in shootout, 2 in regulation. Every game was 5 goals.
I was just saying, do you put any stock into that at all?
No, I don't think. I think the only thing that you put any stock into that is that they're going to be decent games. They're close games, except for a 4-1 game, but that was in San Jose. And the thing is, playoffs, 48 game schedule. Everybody knows that it's like the real season starts now. I mean, we're not fooling ourselves, right? We all know that everything starts now, and I think San Jose kind of, they kind of limped into the playoffs because you look at the first 15 games of the season, they started off on that huge run, and then they just kind of settled back, and if it wasn't for Niemi, they probably would have been on the outside looking in, and so I think Canucks match up everywhere. I think I would give the advantage to the Canucks on every level, defense, offense, goaltending. I'd have to say San Jose. So I mean, if they can find a way to beat Niemi on a consistent basis, Vancouver's going to advance to the second round.
So, talk a lot about the Canucks. Let's talk a little bit about the rest of the West. I mean, we were obviously looking at playoff matchups right up until this weekend. Obviously, the LA San Jose game having implications, St. Louis, what have you. And that's a short season that did all that to us. But let's start with the top game, which is Chicago and Minnesota.
You look at the way Minnesota free fall. Thank God, so I didn't have to do any streaking. But I think the readers I think the viewers are the ones that sign the relief. I think.
Seriously, I didn't want to see it either.
Well, we all agree. Minnesota's been in a downfall for the last month. Hawks in 5, simple.
Really?
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, to me, sure they've been in a downfall, but once it became apparent they needed to play, I mean, people are saying they backed in the playoffs. Really, they wanted to get in.
Yep.
I mean, Columbus has been on a tear, and Minnesota saw that.
They lost
and
was able 2 days before that.
Yeah. Everyone's losing.
Apparently, all the good teams do it.
They lose by 5.
Chicago's just too deep. I mean, Chicago's a deep team. I think Minnesota will win a game at home, but I mean.
See, I'm with the smart guy. Hawks in 5, right?
Yeah, watch Minnesota win inside. But yeah, I just can't see Minnesota even.
I can't see it. I mean, Chicago's way too deep.
Too deep. And Chicago's they had the top seed wrapped up about 3 months ago. So it's like whatever, right? So I mean, for them, it's just getting their feet wet, getting to the second round, and then moving forward. So.
Corey Crawford and Ray Emery's actually been really good for them this year.
Duo, Yep.
I mean, you wouldn't have thought that last year, but they've done pretty good.
Yeah.
And then you add in the firepower up front.
How many games? You got 5-5.
I'd say 4.
Well, I'd actually say 5, but the longer the series goes,
without going over,
the better
right?
Minnesota begins to look.
So you give Minnesota 2 games?
If I could do 5.5, I would.
Oh no, pick one. 5 or 6.
I'm going to say 5.
All right, 5, 4, 5. Okay, good.
5.
Next. Oh, Ed. Hawks in 5, Hawks in 5, Hawks in 4, Hawks in 5.
What are we talking about?
Hawks versus Minnesota.
Basketball.
Oh, Hawks versus Minnesota. Oh, Hawks in 5. Yeah.
Okay.
5 sounds good.
Okay.
Next.
So we have
Anaheim.
yes, Detroit, Anaheim. Thank you. I was going to say Anaheim and Detroit, but I was
Yes.
hung up there.
Yeah.
It's. I'll be honest. The fact that I'm saying that Detroit is at the bottom kind of blows my mind. So,
22 straight years. It's not an accident.
well, they don't have defense. I mean, it all retired. I mean, that's pretty much what happened when Lidstrom left. But does Detroit have the magic to be able to knock off Anaheim, who I think down the stretch had a better record than Chicago?
I think that Cronwall's got to Cronwall somebody, and then like they'll have a. If Anaheim doesn't have everybody, then Detroit might have a chance. I'd say because Anaheim's too stacked. I think because you got Getzlaf, Perry. Well, I mean Ryan's not having a very good year, but still, and I don't see what Detroit's got to match up against their forwards.
I got 2 guys named Datsuk and Zetterberg, but
That's
Yeah.
Zetterberg only do so much.
yeah,
you know,
no,
but-
for sure.
Okay, what do you guys like?
All right,
Let's start with you.
yeah,
Mr.
your
Gold.
turn.
See this one.
No
I'm-
halves
I'm-
either,
I'm-
okay? Just, like, give me a
Anaheim
number.
at 6. Anaheim at 6.
Okay.
And it pains me to say that because there's part of me that wants Detroit, but Anaheim at 6.
Yeah, you know, I'm going to say Anaheim in 7. I almost want to pick Detroit just because you never bet against Detroit in the playoffs, but Anaheim's a really good. They're on a really good roll. I've been waiting for them all year to just kind of start regressing back, but you know, it looks like they might be for real.
Yeah.
Getzlaf, Perry, Nick Bonino's doing all right. Cam Fowler looks like he's getting his game back. And Timo Slany, I mean, what can you say about the guy, right?
Yeah.
And they've got the goaltending.
Yeah.
Hiller and Fast are doing pretty damn good. So
I do like Hiller's mask. I'll go Ducks in 6. You?
I'm going to go with the Wings in 7. I think
Nice.
I think it's going to come down to coaching, and I think Boudreau's shown in the past that he can't coach in the playoffs. That's why he doesn't have a job in Washington anymore. And I think Babcock's a better coach, and I think that he's going to. I think Detroit now playing as the underdog role, and we haven't seen that in like a decade.
Yeah.
Great point.
And I think they have nothing to lose, and like you said, you know, it's going to come down to Zetterberg, Datsuk versus Perry and Ryan.
Yeah.
Perry and
Yeah.
Getzlaf, right?
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I got us.
We need Ed. We need Ed. Yeah, we need
what
Ed's
do we
pick.
have here? So you're Anaheim in 6.
I'm Anaheim in 6.
Anaheim in 7.
6.
Wings in 7.
Wings in 7, and I got Anaheim in 7 as well. I just think that it's going to be a huge battle, but I think because Detroit's got the experience, Detroit's got talent too, but I think that Anaheim, I think they can overcome that this year.
Sounds like a reality show. Detroit's got talent.
Detroit's got talent.
All right.
yeah.
Let's skip Canucks for now. Let's go 4-5, right? Kings and
Blues.
Blues.
So-
This is a matchup in the first round.
Yeah.
This is probably the most interesting matchup of the first round.
I want them to beat the crap out of each other.
Oh no, that's probably
It
what's
will.
going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think either team is designed for anything other than that.
Yeah.
So, you know, is there really a winner out of this series?
Didn't they finish 1 point?
Somebody's going to come through there. Yeah.
Yeah.
it's-
There's got to be a winner.
They
Chris.
finished 1 point
Well,
apart.
okay, proverbially, or literally, yes, figuratively. I mean, let's say the Canucks, one of the biggest worries that we had about the Canucks facing a team like the Blues and the Kings was that if we came out of that series as a winner, that the team would be so beat up,
Yeah.
right? So to me, if both the Blues and Kings are built to beat the heck out of the opposition, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I see the Kings at 7 just because
Oh, that's what I was going to say.
they're the
Yeah.
the Stanley Cup champion.
Okay, you can still say that.
Oh, okay, thank you. Okay.
So what do you
I can
got?
still say it. Right? It's not like we only have one.
Oh,
option.
good. Just making
You
sure.
know what? I'm going to go with the Blues in this one, and I think Blues are going to win in 6. I do like the way the Blues are playing, and I actually had a Twitter conversation with Matt Baker from Team 1040.
What's Bake's take on this?
What Bake's take on? He doesn't see the Blues as that big of a deal, and which is fair. I mean, they've had some rough playoffs in the past and stuff, and the Kings have dominated them, but I think this is a year that the Blues have taken that next step. I mean, their players are maturing. Backus is doing great. Even Chris Stewart is playing the third, fourth line. When you got a guy like that on the third, fourth line, it's great. They're getting the goaltending, so I like the Blues.
Yeah, I like the Blues too. I think they're. I mean, I was as a Canuck fan, I was really hoping the Canucks wouldn't face them in the first round because I think the Blues can go deep in this playoff run. And I think, like you said, Elliott's been playing great, and they're almost that team where the last couple of years it's like, oh, we can do it, and I think this is the year they're going to be able to do it. LA's lost a little bit from last year, and there's always that Stanley Cup hangover.
They don't have Willie Mitchell this year either, or
and
Matt
he
Green.
was massive last year, right? I mean,
What happened to Mitchell? Is he in witness protection?
what did he had
Some sort of
surgery or something.
Yeah, he's injured.
And
He's done, okay.
but overall, like, I mean, one of the hottest teams in the league down the stretch was St. Louis.
Yeah.
And, you know, as tough as it is to say, Jerry Bouwmeester was a big pickup for them. And I think one of the big factors of this series is going to be TJ Oshie and, like, how well he can play once.
Is he back?
Well, that's the thing. That's the whole thing. Like, if he can, they say he's supposed to be back.
Close.
Yeah, it's close. So I mean, if he gets back in the lineup, that adds like a massive amount to that.
I'm glad you mentioned Jay Bouwmeester. Actually, first playoff game ever. I heard he didn't even make the playoffs in June.
Congratulations, Jay Bouwmeester.
I don't know. I just like the Kings.
Bouwmeester for Vezina. Oh no, Conn Smythe. Sorry,
Wow,
Conn
that'd be
Smythe.
impressive if you won the best.
That's why we're bloggers.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just like the Kings' experience over the Blues. Just last year, the fact that they are the returning champs. I just think not that they have to turn it on. I just think there's an intangible there. But yes, it's gonna be a coin flip for sure. So we're split 2-2.
Last two.
2-2.
Yeah.
And on Negative side,
Yeah.
I gotta go with the Blues as well. I think Blues in 7. I think it's gonna be a war in this series, and I think that the Blues have slightly more depth on the blue line, especially with the Kings' injuries, and we all know that the Stanley Cup hangover has a little bit of an effect. But this year with the shortened season, they didn't even start until like halfway.
Yeah.
So,
And I think the
still
last.
gotta be the Blues. I think it's still gonna be the Blues on top of this series.
And I think the last 3 Stanley Cup champs have lost in the first round the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Have they?
Yeah. Chicago lost to
Chicago
Vancouver.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Chicago
Boston lost to Washington,
lost.
and then last year, no, Pittsburgh lost. What was it?
No, Pittsburgh won against the Caps that year.
Maybe
We'll look it up.
2 out of the last 3, I think.
We'll
have
look it up
lost.
before it ended
We'll
up.
look it up.
Yeah. Okay.
LA Kings Twitter account's gonna have a field day on that.
Yeah.
So what do we do in the East? So everybody pick one team. Who do you think that will
Because
get
as
this
of now,
down?
we don't really know what matchup, right?
Well, no, we're still gonna do a prediction.
Okay.
But we'll just do it later.
Okay.
You're thinking hard there, Clay.
I think the Washington Capitals will come out of the East. This year.
No way, really.
I think they just got hot at the right time, shortened season, and
Wow.
I also bet them midway season to win a cup at 50.
Wow. I never would in a million
awesome.
years I thought anybody would think Washington out of that.
Well,
Why not?
I actually-
Division champs.
Someone on Twitter was telling me that their old man put $100 down on the Kings last season at the start of the year in Vegas and walked away at 50-1 odds.
Yeah. Well, I bet the Kings last summer. I was down there for Ray Chan, or one of our friends, texted me on July 3rd. July 1st was free agency day. That's when they made the Richard deal, and they signed, I think, Mitchell and somebody else. And they made a couple of big moves. I think they got Carter as well. But they were 40-1 at the Mirage. I checked on my online book. They were down to 12-1. So I put money for him, not myself. And he's like, "Yeah, just put $20 on it." So he won $800
Is it
on
still
it.
illegal to do this in States?
What's that? Gamble? Sports betting is the best.
Okay, what matchup do we know? Pittsburgh, Washington, or Pittsburgh,
Washington.
Rangers, Washington.
Rangers and Washington.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if all I know is if Washington actually comes out of the East, Shanel's taking money to Vegas for me next year. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go. It sounds so easy to pick them, but I will go with the Penguins. I think they're not like the Lakers and loading up and then crumbling. I think with all the guys they brought in, Crosby especially coming back if he's healthy. I just think they're too strong, and I see them playing Boston in the Eastern Final. I'll go with the Penguins. It's a safe pick.
No, I do like the Penguins. I'd like Washington too, actually. I mean, they're peaking at the right time, but man, I mean, Pittsburgh loaded up, and Crosby's supposed to be back for the first game, right? So, unless
It's a good lineup.
Fleury pulls, what he
Fleury,
did in 2012, then,
But
I think they come out of it.
That's my worry. I would say the Penguins, except for the fact that Fleury, I mean, he's like Luongo. When he goes big. I like the Caps. I'm going to say the Bruins.
Wow.
Yeah, it pains me to say that.
This is going to be Chris's last episode of CHBTV.
Well, no, and I mean, regardless of where the Bruins, start or who they play, they're built tough.
Absolutely.
I'm skeptical that Robo Crosby is going to be enough with Pittsburgh, and there's a little bit more faith there.
Oh, not enough. They've got Malkin and Neal and Iginla and
Kunis and Dupuis.
Well, I mean, the one thing I think
Jokinen.
the one thing any playoffs have shown us, I mean, going to the besides the NBA and Miami Heat, all you got to do is get hot at the right time.
Get hot at the right
and,
time.
you know, look at the Baltimore Ravens. I
Yeah.
mean, we're not doing a comparison, but it's true. It's like if you peak at the right time, you can go right to the championship.
And you know what?
right?
The Canucks admitted it. I mean, Lawrence Gilman a few weeks ago, was it? Or earlier
I
this
mean,
year
we're going
said,
all in.
well, it's not the going
Right at
all
the
in
trade
part.
deadline.
It was a part where he said, in the Stanley Cup playoffs, it's not a matter of who's got the best team; it's who's playing best as a team at that time.
at the right
So
time, right? And
That's what it's all about. So.
Nobody's gonna pick like Washington's a pretty crazy pick.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna pick like any like Montreal.
Oh, that's for you to.
Toronto,
That's for you to do.
Toronto.
Yeah. Go for it.
Because what I found is
So
that
you're going
in
with the
East,
Senators, huh?
It's so it's usually somebody really unlikely. Like who picked New Jersey last year, right?
True.
Who picked who's the
Boston,
yeah,
Boston.
People picked Penguins. Although that being said, every team in the East other than Pittsburgh and Boston that made the playoffs so far, I think they're all they're not really there. They're not really contenders. That being said, I'm going to go with the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Okay.
Because it's probably the most obvious choice.
Good.
So no
Taking
Saints,
the
no
chalk.
Leafs, no Canadians.
Not going to take a really crazy. Not in the first round anyway.
So no chance of an all-Canadian battle this year for the Cup.
All Canadian battle.
Can you imagine a Vancouver Toronto? I mean, that's thinking way ahead.
Way ahead.
Oh, Vancouver,
Oh,
Toronto
man.
final.
So in other words,
It'd be a civil war.
Yeah.
hockey's dead south of the border, and
Record ratings up here.
Yeah.
And then see what happens.
you know there wouldn't be anything happening at 4 o'clock Eastern because every game would be 4 o'clock Eastern.
Yeah. Have we even made a pick on the Canucks series yet?
No, we didn't.
No, we're
No,
saving
we're
that for last.
saving the best for
We're
last.
saving
And before we get to that, I will say if Minnesota and the Islanders meet in the final, Shanel will go streaking. Okay.
How glad are you that Minnesota didn't?
Very, very glad.
You know what? Maybe it's just me, but I really wanted Phoenix and the Jets to make the playoffs because I wanted to see a Phoenix Winnipeg Stanley Cup final.
That would be awesome.
Inception.
Well, and not only that, Manitoba would go down and be in Phoenix, and so it would be like a home game. Didn't matter
Every
where it
game.
was.
Crazy with Jets crowd down in Phoenix. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Everyone wants to know about what we say about this Canucks Sharks
Canucks in
series.
6. Done.
No, we've analyzed it already. We can just give our picks. Yeah.
Cool. And Canucks in 6.
Canucks in 7.
I keep agreeing with you. That's what I was going to say too. Canucks in 7.
I think the Canucks will win in 5 games. I think you'll see a fairly easy march to the center.
We just need a good 5-3 in San Jose where we find.
That's
So
why we
6,
brought
7,
you
7,
on.
5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some stanchion help.
And, yeah. Ed.
Stanchions. And I think Canucks in 6. I don't think the San Jose Sharks are legit contender at this point. There's too many holes in the lineup, and Marlowe and Thornton are just not playoff guys.
There you go.
All right.
So, final words. JJ.
I'll leave it to you. You're
No, I always wrap it up at the end. Final words.
Go Canucks.
Those are 2 words. Good. Play.
I cannot wait to see who skates out first in Game 1 to take the Nets.
You know what? Joe Canada's totally going to get out there first.
And I'm not talking about the
Control
I'm
everyone.
not talking about the little kid who does the minor hockey game. The first Vancouver Canuck to do it.
I actually think that would be awesome. Joe Canada gets in neck first.
Can you just imagine?
Taking shots
Okay.
starts.
Can you imagine Twitter joking at does that?
Well, don't you remember what happened when what's his
Dustin
name?
Butler.
No. When Lou had his issues.
Sabrin.
Sabrin. Dadden Sabrin comes out to start OT, and I can't share with you the words that came out of my mouth at that point.
It's probably the same thing Luongo
was doing it. That's horrible.
So, it just to me, just having Joe Canada take shots first in
nice.
Game 1, just to troll.
That was very
Just
nice.
have them leave the ice.
That would be awesome.
All right, you.
I think fans in the city don't have to worry about anything. Considering what they saw in the last 2 games, I think this team is focused at what they have to do, and I think you'll see that in Game 1 and Game 2. And beyond the first round, honestly, I think they will get past this first round. Beyond that, it's just depending on the matchups. But I think Canuck fans should be in good shape to at least see the first series victory and then move on from there.
Cool. Ed.
Can we stop it with Andrew Ebbett already?
Hey, he's a good guy.
Stop, because I'm not trying to hate on him, but last
Pride of
game
Vernon,
was
BC, man.
absolutely awful. So can we just have Roy and Kessler play in the middle? You know, because we can't win with Andrew Ebbett as our third line center. Sorry, it's not gonna happen.
There.
I hope we win with Andrew Ebbett as our third line center because I want to win that badly. But yeah, no, I probably said this earlier. I am a little bit skeptical. I wish I had Shanel's confidence, but one thing I do know is I'll be cheering for the Canucks.
And you picked him in 6.
And I did pick him in 6.
Yeah.
But I picked him in 6 last season too. It's you're a Canucks fan when you're like, I really want them to win.
You haven't picked the Canucks to lose in anything.
Gee, there's a shot.
You're fired.
I think your first blog this season weren't they supposed to go 48-0?
They didn't go 48 in a row.
No, they were gonna have one.
We gave one.
Like 48-0-1.
All I know, the best thing for this team is how the pulse of this city is so skeptical right now, like you said, and I think that bodes well for this team because now it's the expectations.
No pressure.
There's no pressure because it's the last 2 years, like we said, we talked about the pressures and the expectations. So it's like when you see a lot of fans, as we saw on Twitter the last 48 hours, I think that bodes well for this team.
The last 2 years has been all, you guys better win. You're
Yeah,
the best team in hockey. This year it's like,
If you win a couple of games, we're good.
Cool. Well, I guess we'll wrap this up. I just want to thank again Library Square Public House that's been our gracious host for this episode of CHBTV. Also, big shout out to Jay Jones who helps coordinate this for us behind the scenes, and you can probably see Jay right now. We also would like to give a toast out to all our fans who stayed with us through the season. We hope it's a long, deep playoff run, and keep coming back because we're going to keep telling you all of our very neutral, Canuck-centric,
non-fan biased.
Yeah, not at all.
opinions.
We're professional peeps.
we are professionals.
That's it.
There you go.
And we
Yeah.
thank Shanel for coming on this episode.
Always.
Cool.
Yeah. Catch him on Global TV on weekends.
During the playoffs, we'll see you.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.